big welcome to Mr. Labeeb Ismail from Comcast that joins us on this new season. Labeeb, welcome to the RDK podcast.
Thank you, Tom. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you guys back up and running this. This is an important podcast, and I'm glad to be here.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, we're thrilled to have you on. I honestly couldn't think of a better guest to have on for the revisited series of this podcast. So thank you for joining us today. A lot of people in the community, Labeeb, will already know of you, your involvement in RDK, in the community, in the whole movement over many, many years. But for those few people out there that may be tuning in to just kind of understand what RDK is, would you mind giving a brief introduction to you and your background?
Well, I have been with Comcast now for 17 or 18 years. So long that I forgot. But my journey with RDK started with a call from Sri Kote in November 2009. Where he called me up and said, like, hey, Labeeb, we need to come up with an architecture to build the software for this new device, where we want to bring in like a lot of the goodness from the web, the latest technology from the web world into the set-top box world. And then I called Sri back the next day. And then I had like a block diagram, and then so that is the beginning of my journey with RDK. And to us, it's been really, to me, this has been an incredible experience to be here and to see it evolve from like a block diagram to now running on like more than 100 million devices now. And then now we have different variants of RDK, like for TVs, set-top boxes, cameras, Wi-Fi extenders, gateways, and it's really amazing. It's been an amazing journey.
That's incredible. I've never heard that story before, actually, until you just said it. But it's interesting. So way back in 2009, that you had the first initial discussions. I mean, crikey, that really shows how long RDK really has been around, actually, from initial discussions to first pilot. So I believe first pilot was around 2014 or so. Was that
the first pilot we deployed in 2011?
Okay, wow.
So 2011, we actually had it in customers' home in 2011, and then we actually made a product. The first one was a device that we deployed on like a less than 1,000 homes in Augusta, in US. And from there, we decided, like, hey, this is working out great. Let's expand it. And we built a multi-room DVR product based on it at that time with Intel Silicon on the main gateway and the Broadcom Silicon on the satellite device. And then we deployed that in 2012, which is the first wide-scale deployment of RDK.
Wow.
And then for us, the journey continued from that point. I think we liked a lot of things that we were seeing with RDK, because it was a new way for us at that time on how we manage these devices. Earlier, it was kind of like a world where these software releases and these devices were done like once in 2 years, and it was kind of like we had like a lot of dependency on a lot of external software providers and OEMs at that time, and and how we manage the software releases and how we track how these devices are doing in the field were all based on like older technologies like SNMP at that time, right? And then we realized a lot of things that we did for us to roll out these releases like every month, which was what we were doing initially. So in order for us to do that, we need to capture a lot of data and analyze a lot of data for us to figure out, like, hey, are we ready to do the release, and are we ready to scale the next release to those million plus customers at that time? So we build a lot of technologies around it, and so when we looked at it, we said, hey, we should do this across everything that we do for devices, right? And that is the decision that we made. And the 2014 is when we started working on the RDKB. So we create the broadband version of RDK, and that is why like the became the common piece, and then we have a video, and we have cameras and broadband as kind of extensions, profile specific extensions of RDK. So that's and then again around that same time, like around 2013 2014 timeframe, we realized that hey, there is a wider a demand for what we were doing in the community, right? And we kind of also realized as Comcast, we realized like, hey, it is much better to be aligned with the community on this, with others who have similar needs, and work with our partners who are building silicons and devices, and work with them, so that they are not doing this just for Comcast. Right.
Yeah.
So we at that time worked with Liberty Global and Time Warner, which is now Charter. With that team is now Charter, to create the RDKM as the management organization to manage to open source all the work that we have been done within our team, and the Time Warner and Charter and Liberty Global at that time, and then combine forces and build a community around it. And it's been like an incredible journey right now, because we do have a huge adoption of RDK outside of Comcast right now, which is really helping all of us together.
Yeah, yeah. I think. Thank you, Labeeb. Yeah, I think that in itself is quite a feat, isn't it? Because Comcast were obviously very involved with RDK, as you said, from the very early days, and now to have such widespread usage outside of Comcast is testament to it as a framework and it as an option for operators out there. If I could just go back, maybe just a couple of steps. Why is RDK so significant? And why does it make sense as a common framework for operators, both in the US but also around the world?
Yes. So you have to kind of imagine a world where RDK is not available as an option. So prior to RDK, there was a world where you had software stacks which is really fragmented and separated from coming from different system integrators or vendors. So an operator, a smaller operator, that works okay because you have like one device manufacturer. From them they are getting a device and you get the stack from them. But now you are essentially stuck. Like later, if you want to do something else which is different, the change is a huge change, right? And then larger operators had like multiple partners from whom they were getting their devices or software stacks, and they were all coming up with different versions of various base software, essentially. And then so it was very difficult to innovate, very difficult to take things forward, because every time you want to build a new feature, you go talk to vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, and then have all of them build it separately, and there is all the interoperability. So there was a huge amount of friction, and it was slowing everything down. So that limited their ability to move fast, right? And now, what you see over time is there were like other on the video, especially on the video side, there were like other providers which came in. I don't want to call out any of them, but do you know who they are? So they came up with their own software solutions which are also independent. So that provided a lot of flexibility for operators. So it's not just RDK, there are like other options also. Now each of those options have like there are other issues also. So I think one of the benefit of RDK is like really no hidden agenda, essentially. Like what we were doing is kind of build the stack, and the stack is available for anyone, and then it is free for anyone to take that and make their own variant of it. And that's kind of what you saw in the industry, is like many people to make use of the opportunity of taking the open source RDK and creating their own variant and customization. Now, on the now, if you look at the broadband side, the story there were different. Like there were like I think in that case, OpenWRT kind of became the de facto stack for several manufacturers, and they took OpenWRT. But then what they did is they did a huge amount of customizations on top of them and create their own versions of it, which each of them were independently innovating on or building on. This problem from an operator point of view came back because even though it's all open WRD based, there was no common base. Like it was, everything was tied into the hardware. And the moment you want to switch hardware or moment you want to build a new feature across several devices, you are back into the original problem, which is having to work with several different opaque partners and having each of them build the feature for you. So that's kind of where what we are seeing, where RDK, the adoption of RDK from an operator point of view, it kind of provides an open and common base that you could use. And now pretty much like most of the OEMs and device manufacturers have an RDK version of the solution. So an operator has a choice to in many cases whether they want to use an RDK, which is an open thing where they can standardize across multiple hardware devices and hardware vendors, right? Or they could have a similar set of functionality. From which comes from the OEM, which is a little bit opaque and tied to the OEM. Right. The other big benefit, what you're seeing with RDK, or what we have seen within Comcast and others in the industry are recognizing, is the whole management and telemetry and diagnostics components that we built on top of RDK. Like so, RDK to us was the base, but one of the key part of RDK is how figuring out how do we collect data from these devices from a diagnostics point of view, and a massive amount of data, so that we can, when there are some issues happening somewhere in the field, we can immediately correlate the telemetry corresponding to that. Like so, if there is a particular CMTS or a particular local area where there's an issue happening, we can now immediately see that like within like a few minutes using the RDK, the data at the RDK level. And then now we have set up a system around this data through which we can immediately trigger alerts and trigger actions that we can go do based on this data. And some of the data may be at the network level, and some of the data could be other things. There could be like a new version of iPhone or one of the like phone or a TV software which is going out in the field. And now if we are seeing like there is a particular issue which is tied to that particular software version, which is not even our software, right? But now we have the way to detect it immediately and then say that, hey, we have a problem in the field with this particular version. We should talk to that particular manufacturer, or we need to figure out how our silicon software or our software could adapt to it. So I think the whole system built on top of RDK, using capabilities in RDK, is to me something the many operators are seeing a lot of value, and Comcast is seeing huge value in this.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think if history has taught us anything, it's the open source collaborative nature of standardization that really works, right? So the benefit to the consumer through standardization is the collection of that data, understanding faults, being aware of them, being able to build quicker, scale, more robust, more secure, more reliable, because you have a common platform and a common understanding that people can tweak. And of course, the issue is if you didn't have this, everyone is doing their own thing, which comes with cost, and that cost ultimately gets passed back onto the consumer if you didn't have this, right? So there's lots of benefits to the consumer by having a common platform, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think we are just like the community is getting the benefit of what we are doing. We are also getting a lot of benefit from the community because we are getting the benefit from several bug fixes coming back. There are like some key features which has come back from the community, which is really useful to us. So I think this has been like a good journey for us and the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons why I really love RDK, because it's a community working together to create a better standard, to refine that, and to kind of unite in a way, actually. And sometimes in technology, standardization or a common platform or a unification actually does play quite a few areas. And I think the TV world had this actually for a long time. And so I think this is why RDK is obviously so popular and is growing in popularity. And again, if we could talk about some of the standards, so I'm trying to accommodate for both the seasoned RDK expert and aficionado, but also people joining us today and who are new to RDK. As it stands at the moment, we've had two very common platforms, and if you could just briefly describe what they are. RDK-B for broadband and RDK-V, which is a video centric. Could you explain just the differences in those, Labeeb, and how they came about?
Yeah, so there is a core part of RDK which is the same or very similar for both of this, and that is kind of what we are now starting to call the foundation layer of RDK. And that is the Linux kernel. We use Yocto based kernel, which is coming from the Open Embedded Linux Foundation, from Linux Foundation, the Embedded Linux. We have like a set of tools, like how we which are common, like how do you debug stuff, how do you collect telemetry, how do you configure parameters, how do you do feature control, how do you do software download. So there's a lot of common thing which is kind of all what we would call as the foundation layer of RDK, and that is common across all variants of RDK. And then there might be like some differences or tweaks which is done based on the connectivity or other differences in these devices, but that is a common part. And then we have RDK video, RDKV or RDK video, which is which is built for video based use cases. Because now moment you go into the video based use cases, there is a lot of different requirement. The biggest thing is of course audio, video, and graphics. So how we support all of those. But then the second biggest thing is the app framework. One key part of video is we have like thousands of apps versus like a handful of apps in the broadband side. It was very important for us to have a very robust app framework on the video side, and then kind of isolate the app from the rest of the system, so the app will not cause harm to the rest of the system. And so we provide a browser-based app framework through on which you can build pure HTML app or Lightning based app. Lightning is um, was developed originally by Metrological, which is now a Comcast company, and Lightning has shown to show to shown to build a lot of capabilities over the regular HTML, mostly on the performance, but like a lot of easy development capabilities over that. So we have seen many of the HTML apps switch to Lightning, but we also have to provide a robust native environment for native apps. We have like Netflix and Cobalt. And a few other native apps, which are some of the premium apps which are running. So that is the key part of RDKV. Now, RDKV later got extended to support TVs, which have to deal with all the specifications to support TVs throughout the world, like in US. ATSC, you have DVB and HBB TV in Europe, and then in different part of the world, like there are very specific specifications that we have to support. And the other big part of TV is the picture quality, audio quality. So AQ and PQ, as it's called by in the industry. So there were a lot of work which had to be done to do that. And then all the HDMI interoperability, But the set-top boxes have to support HDMI. The requirement on the TV side has been like a lot more extensive than what we traditionally have to do for set-top box. So TV extension, which we recently built onto RDK, RDKV, provides now support for TVs in addition to the set-top box functionality, which we originally had as a part of RDKV. Now, when we switch to the broadband side, which is the RDKB, it sounds so similar, so we have to really emphasize the B versus V. Well, maybe in the future we'll come up with better naming there. Now RDKB deals with, on one side, all WAN aspect. So in the WAN side, we started with, because of our Comcast's cable origin, we started with DOCSIS. But then when we started working with Sky and many of our European partners, we started like supporting a lot of other WAN technologies, like various fiber technologies and DSL technologies. And recently, working with, again, like several of our partners, who some of them are telcos, telcos and mobile providers. We recently added LTE and 5G extensions to RDK. So the WAN part is a big part of the RDKB, right? And then the second part is the Wi-Fi, which is the next biggest piece. So we have to figure out how to do Wi-Fi management. So recently, RDKM and Plume announced some of the work that Comcast has done with Plume in creating the Wi-Fi management, or I wouldn't say creating, because we already had a Wi-Fi management, but we updated the Wi-Fi management component to make it like more cloud centric, so that you can control them much easier from the cloud. And it is not tied to Plume. It is really a common framework which is also used by several other mesh providers now. I think AirTies has been working very closely with RDKM in making sure their technology works as seamlessly on that. So these were like some of the works that we have done on the broadband side recently. So these are like the two big profile. There is a third profile, RDK for cameras, which is used, I would say, not as widely as broadband and video, but Comcast has several million cameras built around RDKC. And then now I see that there are other adopters of the technology for their camera devices in other parts of the world.
Yeah, it's and I was just going to mention RDKC, but I think the speed of innovation here is fantastic, isn't it? You know, you mentioned earlier about lightning and of course metrological, and everyone knows the story about metrological. But I remember Silverlight. I remember ActionScript 3. You know, and you know that it wasn't actually that long ago that
Yeah.
people were deploying this on set-top boxes. So to move to lightning, something quicker, more robust, better, you know, easier to code with, etc. It's amazing, really, how just quickly the speed of innovation, certainly within RDK, within the community. And again, I think this is testament to the fact that people are working together. And what happens when you put great minds together? You come up with really good innovation quickly. On the RDKC front, I think RDKB certainly has been well spoken about, and RDKV. Um, do you see RDKC growing? Because one of the big issues, of course, with cameras that everyone talks about is the security element as well, right? It's usually the weakest part of a network. Is this something that will grow in the future with RDK, Labeeb?
Uh, I Within Comcast, I see a lot of continued focus in pushing the protection, the home protection aspect, and going forward. I would think that this is an important area for several other operators, and I. Also want to mention one other aspect which is all tied to this is some of the work that we are doing on the IoT front. So from Comcast point of view, this is all tied together. Like, how do we connect other devices in the home with our gateway? Because some of the gateways that we built and deployed has the ability to support several of the IoT technologies like Thread and Zigbee. And now one of the big work that we are doing is supporting Matter, using the some of the capabilities, the radio capabilities that we had in the gateway. So we are making a big push in turning on Matter in RDK, so that we can use this capability of RDK to control and manage other devices in the home.
Yeah, and that brings me on lovely actually to the Matter initiative. So I'm a bit of an IoT geek in a way, self confessed. So I know a little bit about Matter and the recent press around that. For the uninitiated, could you talk about the Matter initiative and its significance to RDK?
Yeah, so before Matter, there had been like several attempts in to standardize the home, like IoT device connectivity in the home, right? What was different for Matter is it was based on it was like really focused on implementation, kind of how do we get the technology implemented and deployed faster. And we had like a group of companies who are like leaders in this field come together and say that, hey, this is the technology we think which is the most secure. Like, I think one of the biggest initiate your focus for the Matter group was the security, because you can't have like home devices which others could hack into one way or other, because there will be critical functionality within the home which would be controlled through these devices. So security was there from ground up. Like, so this whole Matter stack was designed from that point of view. So Comcast was one of the founding members for the Matter group, and Asad Haq is still chairing some part of the Matter technical committee, especially focused on the security side. So Matter is been rapidly evolving. And this is something that I'm like really excited about. Like you, I'm really excited about kind of coming up of seeing a standard which is widely supported by like all devices, like mobile phones, like TVs, these gateways, and like voice assistants and all of them, right? So I'm really great to see the evolution of that technology, and Comcast has been the forefront in trying to figure out how do we support. Like, luckily for us, the product team had the foresight to include some of the radio technology in our gateways. So we have like tens of millions of gateways with which are Matter capable. Now we are in the process of figuring out like what is our strategy of turning on those capabilities on those gateways.
Yeah. It can't be overstated just how important this is. I think actually from a common platform. You mentioned just there briefly about IoT. I mean, one of the issues that IoT has had over the years is its lack of standardization and the ability to actually go to the next level. So initiatives like Matter and working with IoT security, and of course upcoming post quantum IoT security, which is a whole other ballpark, I think is really, really important. So the Matter initiative with the crossover to the gateway, to the video, to the broadband element really has a lot of potential. And it's going to be a really exciting few years, I would imagine, to be, because again, the pace of innovation with Matter, what Comcast is doing, is going at quite a rapid rate, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. As I said, but definitely there would be a lot. This is an industry and a space which has a lot of legs.
Yes, yeah. As we're filming this, we're just a few weeks out from the RDK Tech Summit 2023, which is being hosted by our friends at Deutsche Telekom in Bonn. What is the perspective of Comcast for the Tech Summit? I understand you'll be there, some of your colleagues, etc. What's the aim of the Tech Summit, and why would it be beneficial for people to attend it?
One good thing about what's happening in the community is there is already a lot of work going on, like virtually, from a lot of teams collaborating in various groupings. So the Tech Summit provides a way to bring all of them together face to face in many cases, and talk about the work that they have been doing with to a much larger group, right? So there were like cases where engineers from company A, B, and C had been working together on a particular like technology, like the native app scaling, or like the LAN manager, or various WAN technology. Like there's a bunch of technology where they've been working on. So RDK Tech Summit is a great opportunity for all of them to present that to the much larger community, and then a lot of collaboration happens, outside of the sessions in these meetings. So I'm really glad to see that happening. And last time Sky hosted this in UK, and there were like a lot of meetings which happened, a lot of discussions which happened during those, and a lot came out of those. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the great things about RDK in the sense that it unites developers from the ground up, having both a tech summit and a global summit. I think it's always quite nice actually to have an event specifically around the technology, what's really changing, the advancements, and that collaborative nature. Because this is why businesses in the past have run hackathons, right? Actually, and similar events, because you get quite a lot of progression by doing these things, don't you?
Yeah, but I think these kind of sessions kind of also help build relationships, better relationship with technical leaders of many companies, and a lot of things. I think the hackathons is definitely a way in which people could jointly build some concepts together, and it's all like helping the community kind of grow and move faster. The difference between the Tech Summit and the Global Summit is Global Summit talks about all aspects of RDK, like not just the technology development aspect, because there is a lot of aspect of like deployment, like partner relationships, like overall roadmap, strategic discussions. All of that happens in the Global Summit, whereas Tech Summit is focused like a lot more on technology development.
For me personally, Labeeb, one of the things that I'm most interested in seeing advancements in RDK in the future is the non-media components, the IoT side that it has the potential for, as you mentioned earlier, the joining of the connected home, using the gateway as the central hub, and how Matter can work together with RDK to create a unified platform where everything works. Because I always try and bridge the gap between a technologist, a tech enthusiast, and a consumer, actually. And what is the benefit to the consumer? Because ultimately, that's the person that's paying for all of it. And that's the person that's going to be interested in it. So I think certainly a very interesting few years ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I do, as I said, like IoT and connectivity, in-home connectivity, which goes beyond Wi-Fi and Ethernet, is a key area of focus for not just Comcast, but I know for several other operators in the space. So I do think a lot of evolution and innovations happening and coming out in the RDK broadband side in the future years.
Excellent. Labeeb, Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the RDK podcast. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you here. I've wanted to have you on the show for some time, and I'm glad that you've joined us on this revisited episode. I know you're a very busy man, but I'm very thankful for your time, as will our viewers and listeners be. So thank you for coming on.
Tom, thanks for inviting me to join you in this restarting of this program. I really enjoyed my time doing this. So thanks for the invite, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Labeeb. And guys, if you want to find out more about Labeeb or Comcast or general RDK advancements, we'll put some links in the comments and some various tags for you to go and follow. But stay tuned, because this is a very exciting and fast-moving world, and we hope to see you soon on the next episode.